What's up, wrestling fans? You're watching Fight Talks News, the one-stop spot for every WWE headline and showdown. Subscribe now and ring that bell. Let's get started. WWE fans love a good mystery, but few storylines have captured the imagination of the wrestling world quite like the shocking attack on Jacob Fatu. For weeks, the SmackDown roster and the entire WWE Universe were left guessing who had the audacity to take down one of the most dominant and respected competitors in the business. Every theory, every rumor, and every whispered clue built toward a night that promised answers and delivered something far bigger. What started as a question of who did it became a tale of legacy, betrayal, and redemption that redefined the emotional core of SmackDown. The reveal that shook SmackDown, the mystery that had gripped the WWE Universe for weeks, finally came to a shocking conclusion when Nick Aldis, the ever-calculated SmackDown general manager, stepped into the ring under the bright lights to reveal the truth everyone had been waiting for. The attack on Jacob Fatu had been the most discussed and dissected moment in recent memory. A sudden, brutal ambush that left one of the most dominant athletes in WWE lying unconscious backstage. Fans across the world speculated endlessly. Who had the power, the guts, and the motive to take out someone like Fatu, a man built like a tank and respected as a warrior? Theories ran wild, from jealous rivals to old enemies. But when Aldis finally stood before the crowd, holding that now infamous tablet in his hands, the anticipation was suffocating. You could hear a pin drop as the footage rolled. A shadowed figure moved swiftly and deliberately through the backstage corridors. Every step looked intentional, every movement calculated. Then, as Aldis enhanced the footage and slowed it down frame by frame, the truth emerged and gasps filled the arena. The attacker was not who anyone expected. The attack that changed everything. To understand the gravity of the moment, we have to go back to that chaotic night. Jacob Fatu had been unstoppable, tearing through opponents, dominating every segment, and making his presence known as the enforcer of the Samoan legacy. Then, without warning, he was found backstage, surrounded by toppled equipment, medics scrambling to revive him, the locker room thrown into confusion. The footage didn't catch the actual attack, only the aftermath, an image of destruction and silence. For weeks, Nick Aldis spearheaded an intense investigation, reviewing hours of footage, interviewing talent, and chasing every lead. But nothing fit until he caught a tiny, almost invisible clue, a reflection on a steel crate that changed everything. The discovery led Aldis to the truth, and what he uncovered was more than a backstage rivalry. This was the eruption of a grudge that stretched back years before either man joined WWE. The attacker had a score to settle, one that dated back to the independent circuit when both families clashed over bookings, respect, and legacy. That unhealed wound festered until it boiled over into this moment. The attack on Fatu wasn't about fame or gold. It was about pride and retribution. It was the act of someone determined to right a perceived wrong, even if it meant crossing every line in the process. The unmasking and the chaos. When Nick Aldis finally revealed the identity of the attacker, the arena erupted into chaos. Some fans screamed in disbelief, others stood frozen in silence. Even members of the roster looked visibly stunned. The person behind the assault was a name that hadn't been whispered in any of the fan theories, a superstar often seen but never suspected, someone who had quietly climbed the ranks, built credibility, and avoided any hint of controversy. Yet there they stood, exposed as the mastermind behind one of the most cunning attacks in recent WWE history. Their plan had been flawless until now. As soon as Aldis said the name, Jacob Fatu burst from the backstage curtain, pure rage in his eyes. He stormed toward the ring, shouting for the attacker to come out and face him. The air was electric. The crowd sensed a storm coming. Security formed a barrier, but Fatu was beyond reasoning. When the attacker finally appeared on stage, microphone in hand, the tension snapped. They admitted to everything, speaking with cold conviction. They talked about years of being overshadowed, of being dismissed by the wrestling families that controlled the business, and of taking matters into their own hands. The crowd booed and cheered in equal measure. Some saw a villain, others saw a survivor finally taking control of their destiny. But before words could turn into reconciliation, Fatu charged forward, and the inevitable explosion happened right there on live television. The brawl that shook the arena. What unfolded next was pure chaos. Fatu and his attacker clashed like thunder, fists flying, security scattering, and the crowd roaring like a storm. This wasn't a scripted confrontation. It was raw, violent energy spilling out of years of resentment and fury. They fought from the stage down the ramp, crashing into barricades, trading blows with an intensity that left fans stunned. Nick Aldis shouted orders for backup as officials flooded the scene, trying to separate them. But neither man cared about control or consequences. They wanted blood, they wanted closure, and they wanted it now. Cameras caught the moment both competitors had to be physically restrained, dragged to separate corners of the arena, their eyes locked even as they were pulled apart. Chants of "Let them fight" echoed through the building, proving just how invested fans had become. When the dust settled, one thing was clear. This was far from over. What started as a mysterious attack had evolved into a deeply personal war that threatened to tear SmackDown apart from the inside out. The fallout and locker room division. The aftermath of the reveal sent shockwaves through the WWE locker room. Veterans and newcomers alike chose sides. Some sympathized with the attacker, understanding that resentment against the Samoan dynasty ran deep. Others were furious, calling the ambush an unforgivable act that violated every unspoken rule of respect. The locker room split almost instantly. Factions began forming, alliances shifting as wrestlers debated loyalty and justice. Family members of Jacob Fatu publicly weighed in, some demanding revenge, others urging calm. It was chaos behind the scenes as Nick Aldis worked overtime to keep the peace, knowing that any spark could ignite another all-out brawl. Meanwhile, social media exploded. Fans dug through old footage from the independent scene, uncovering moments that gave new context to the rivalry. Longtime wrestling historians began connecting dots, highlighting the generational tension that had quietly existed for years. What made this story stand out wasn't just the physicality, it was the realism. Fans could feel the emotion, the bitterness, the authenticity of a feud built on real history. WWE hadn't seen storytelling this layered in years, and audiences responded with record-breaking engagement. The road to redemption and revenge. As the days passed, the story only deepened. Both Jacob Fatu and his attacker began releasing training footage online, showing their preparation for the inevitable collision. The energy was palpable. Each video carried messages, some direct, others cryptic. The attacker posted a clip shadowboxing under a flickering light with the caption, "You can't break what was already broken." Fatu responded with one word: soon. The promos that followed blurred the line between reality and kayfabe, showing the best of modern wrestling storytelling. Fatu, now darker and more intense, made it clear that his only mission was vengeance. The attacker, meanwhile, leaned into their new identity as the rebel, someone unafraid to stand against wrestling's royalty. The crowd was split. Some wanted Fatu to crush his rival and restore honor to his name. Others began to cheer for the attacker, a defiant figure standing against a system they believed had wronged them. Nick Aldis, understanding the magnitude of the moment, announced that when the two finally met, it would be under special conditions. No disqualifications, no countouts, no running. A fight until one man couldn't stand. The legacy continues. As SmackDown prepares for this inevitable confrontation, one truth stands out above all. This feud has transcended typical storytelling. It's not about good versus evil anymore. It's about legacy, pride, and the ghosts of the past. Jacob Fatu's transformation from dominant enforcer to vengeful warrior has shown fans a new dimension of his character. The attacker's rise from overlooked competitor to headline-making disruptor has made them one of the most compelling figures in WWE today. Their clash represents something bigger than just a rivalry. It's a generational reckoning, a collision between history and hunger. In response, WWE has enhanced security, introduced new backstage rules, and even released limited-edition merchandise for both sides, feeding into the cultural moment this feud has created. Fans wear shirts, wave signs, and chant names with passion unseen in years. Analysts predict that when Fatu and his attacker finally meet in the ring, it could be one of the defining matches of this era. The story has everything: mystery, emotion, heritage, rebellion, and redemption. What began as a shadowed attack backstage has evolved into a saga that will define both men's careers. And as fans, all we can do is sit back, watch, and know we're witnessing the kind of storytelling that reminds us why we fell in love with wrestling in the first place.